During the recent live stream, someone asked what I thought was a great question. What advice would you give to someone in college right now working towards their software engineering degree? And honestly, the answer kind of threw me off for a moment because if you know me, I wanted to ask more questions before I gave an answer. But if I didn't know this individual, which I don't, and I don't have any of the details, which is most important, I would say that it's not so much about the syntax, it's not so much about learning data structures. The single most important skill that you can build right now is your ability to problem solve. In this video, I want to break down why problem solving matters, things that you can kind of expect on your collegiate or your software development formal journey, and then some things that you could put in practice right now to actually help develop those problem solving skills, which is going to give you the confidence and more importantly, the drive to get through those tough moments because they will come up. If you're just starting your coding journey, going through a college, a online boot camp, or your self-taught, problem solving is going to be that superpower that's going to carry you throughout your career. And I can assure you it's going to show up no matter where you are in your coding journey. So every developer has come across this concern, no matter if you've been coding for 2 months or 22 years. You're going to run into bugs, you're going to run into problems, you're going to run into things that you haven't actually faced before. And those that actually go on to become a software engineer and do this for multiple years, they don't actually avoid those problems. They actually know how to work through them. You see, when you hit an error message, your instinct might be to panic or give up or just stop altogether. But the good developers are the ones that's going to slow down, break the problem into smaller parts, and experiment with various things until they figure it out. And don't be afraid to use various resources, whether it's Google, whether it's the documentation, whether it's some form of AI. It may even be a colleague or someone else that may be in class with you that might be able to help you get through a sticking point. All of these are resources. The key is that you can't allow the actual bug to deter you from keep going. You've got to slow down, break it into smaller parts, and leverage all of your resources until you actually know how to resolve the problem that you're looking for. You see, as you're on your coding journey, as the days, the months, the years go along, languages are going to change, frameworks are going to come and go, new frameworks are going to come out that's going to be better than the old ones. But the ability to problem solve is timeless, and that's what's going to carry you through no matter what framework or language that you may be using to build the application. So let me give you an example. If you're coding in Java and you keep hitting a null pointer error, a beginner might stare at the screen, copy and paste the fix from Google, and feel like they're failing because they actually had to use Google to solve the problem. But here's the thing. This is typically where problem solving starts to kick in. You want to really ask yourself, where exactly is the variable or the error message coming from? Did I initialize it? What steps did I take to resolve this issue? Heck, you may even have to make a system.print on each individual line until you figure out where exactly that error message is coming from to kind of help you figure this out so that you have a better understanding of what exactly to correct going forward. You see, you have to be passionate about figuring out why things are going wrong, more importantly than just fixing the error itself. That being inquisitive and wanting to have a good understanding of what exactly is causing the issue, that side, that curiosity and the drive behind that is what's going to help you become a good software engineer, because it's not just so much about fixing the issue, but you've got to be passionate about fixing issues. But more importantly, you've got to really want to have an understanding of the whys behind it, because if you understand the why, typically you can correct the issue from happening going forward. So if you're in college, this skill is going to be extremely important, because I could tell you when I went through a formal schooling, usually the professor is going to give you vague assignments. They're never going to give you the full answer, is with very little direction, and it's going to be up to you to kind of fill in the gaps. This is intentional because in the real world, no one is going to give you a perfectly explained to-do list, right? If you get a expectation from a client or your leader, they may not give you those detailed instructions on what exactly they're looking for. They're going to expect you to kind of fill the gaps and kind of teach them what they don't know, if you will. So when you hit a wall, the assignment isn't necessarily testing if you know everything. It's more so testing if you can break the unknown into smaller solvable pieces, and how driven are you to actually break this down, and do you have the capacity and the understanding to explain it to someone else, because that's what's going to be important too, is your ability to understand what you're building, and being able to articulate it to someone else. And again, I gave you a vague issue of a to-do list. I didn't give you any expectations of what to go along with it. How does your creativity and your ability to problem solve give me what it is that I'm looking for? And can you explain to me how it works and the underlying code that goes along with it? In conclusion, if you're just starting out, don't stress about mastering a framework. Don't compare yourself to other people who you've seen ahead of you. Focus on learning how to solve problems, because that's going to be your true superpower. And I can promise you that every great developer has the ability to solve problems. Coding isn't so much about never getting stuck, but it's more so about getting stuck and knowing how to get unstuck, if you will. Every bug that you fix, every error message that you figure out, every problem that you solve, that's going to be proof that you're becoming a better developer. So let me know in the comments some of the things that you did to kind of help you with your problem solving journey. And let me know what you feel is the most important thing or advice that you would give to your younger self or someone else that's in college right now studying to become a software engineer. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you did, feel free to give me a like, consider subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. And while you're on your journey, ultimately what you want to do is have a mindset shift, right? You want to have the mindset that says, hey, I'm going to stop saying I can't do something. I'm going to start saying, how do I do this? Or I'm not able to do it just yet, but I'm in the process of figuring it out. That one word of yet is going to take some pressure off of you from having to kind of do something right now. You don't want to start comparing yourself to others. You want to compare yourself to where you were yesterday and ultimately where it is that you want to go. It's no longer about talent or how smart you are. It's more so about how persistent you are and your willingness not to give up. You're not supposed to know everything when you're first starting out. You're going to have to go through those bumps and bruises. But what you are supposed to do is have the drive and the persistence to be willing to figure things out. So how exactly do you practice problem solving? So here are some habits that I picked up along the way that I think will be beneficial for you. So number one is you want to read the error messages as if they're clues. They're not just random messages, right? I know it's tempting to copy and paste or copy the error message and paste it into Google or Chat GPT or whatever it is that you're using and copy the answer that it gives you and keep moving. But you really want to get to a space to where you understand where this error message is coming from and have some understanding of how exactly to resolve it yourself, not necessarily rely on another tool to always solve that problem for you. Use your print statements or a debugger or the terminal to kind of help with your problem solving process. Usually, if you print the error message out in the terminal or in the console, however you're programming, it'll kind of give you some form of a guide of how exactly or what exactly is causing the error message and where you should kind of look to resolve the issue. When you're utilizing Google, make sure you're doing it with a purpose. Don't just copy and paste the error message and the result from Google and paste it in. And because it works, you keep moving. No, do it with a purpose. Be specific. Make sure that you understand it. Be able to rewrite the result in your own coding terms so that you have a good understanding of how exactly the code works. And more importantly, you recognize the appropriate pattern moving forward. Break problems down into smaller parts. Look, start small. Make a print out of each line if you have to. Take your time as you're going through these problems that you're running into. Don't just try to tackle the entire problem at once, but breathe, take a step back and break it down into smaller parts. Because if you do that, I can promise you it's going to be a lot easier and you'll find more joy and excitement behind solving problems. The next thing I'll suggest is to reflect on your code itself. After you solve the problem, ask yourself, what exactly did I learn? Did I learn anything new? What exactly went wrong? What do I need to do to make sure this doesn't happen again? And, one of the things that I did as well, especially in college and especially when I was first starting out, was I solved a lot of coding problems. Code Wars was kind of one of my best friends, right? It wasn't so much about solving so many exercises, which it was, but it was more so about the confidence that it gave me to solve problems and how to actually think through the problem that I'm having. Being able to print out the first two characters of a string, sounds simple, and in theory it might be, but this is the building block of things that you can use to compound into other things. Being able to print out the vowels within a string, or being able to accumulate the sum of all the positive numbers. These things sound minuscule, and no, they don't build big fancy projects. But the better you get at being able to do these things and how to manipulate data and get the data that you're looking for, you're really going to become better at coding in general. And more importantly, you're going to be more comfortable with problem solving. Because if you're solving those coding exercises on your own, chances are you're going to have to write out specific steps on how to solve them. And that's exactly the same behavior that you're going to utilize when you're dealing with the real world larger project. So I would recommend doing those 6 things in all of your coding practices. And whenever you run into an error message, or whenever you run into a problem or you get stuck, look to break it down into smaller problems. Google what the purpose, use print statements to help, read the error message, reflect back on your code. And then during downtime, don't just build large projects. Solve some problems on like Code Wars or Leak Code or any of the other platforms that give you coding exercises. These things help tremendously. I can assure you that.